Are You Being Served? A sitcom staple, 1972 to 1985. Are You Being Served is a beloved British sitcom that graced television screens for a remarkable 13 years, from 1972 to 1985. Created by the legendary duo of David Croft and Jeremy Lloyd, the show offered a hilarious glimpse into the lives of the eccentric staff at Grace Brothers, a department store facing the winds of change. The series revolved around the day-to-day misadventures on the clothing floor. The stern and perpetually exasperated floorwalker, Captain Peacock, played by the brilliant Frank Thornton, struggled to maintain order amidst the clashing personalities of his subordinates. Mrs. Slocum, the unforgettable Molly Sugden, the formidable head of ladies' fashions, with her signature fiery red hair and endless supply of innuendo-laden comments about her pet pussy, Cat, was a constant source of amusement. Miss Brahms, Wendy Richard, was the busty junior ladies' wear assistant who was often cheeky to Mrs. Slocum. Known for her Cockney accent, Miss Brahms was sometimes unintelligible to the person with whom she was speaking, but often put on her best voice when answering the telephone. Under Mrs. Slocum's guidance, she became a more useful assistant throughout the series, though the hierarchy of Grace Brothers was such that she would have moved up only when Mrs. Slocum left, if ever. Across the aisle, in men's wear, resided the flamboyant Mr. Humphreys, John Inman, whose flamboyant style and catchphrase "I'm free" became synonymous with the show. The ever-reliable Mr. Lucas, Trevor Bannister, and the meek Mr. Granger, Nicholas Smith, rounded out the core cast, navigating the store's often nonsensical policies and eccentric customers. The Grace Brothers, young Mr. Grace, Harold Bennett, and old Mr. Grace, Kenneth Waller, were the old-fashioned owners of the store. Both were old but loved young, curvaceous women. They both treated their employees with respect and encouragement, hence young Mr. Grace's catchphrase, "You've all done very well." Mr. Mash, Larry Martin, was a Grace Brothers maintenance man. He was frequently reprimanded by Captain Peacock for appearing on the sales floor during business hours, but had no fear of his superiors. He had a thorough knowledge of store operations and was a union agitator. He often bragged of taking home much larger paychecks than the sales assistants due to overtime. Mr. Mash was rather weedy and class-conscious, and made sneering comments towards the sales staff. Mr. Harmon, Arthur English, replaced Mr. Mash in Season 4 as maintenance man. He shared some traits in common with Mr. Mash, both being common sorts and union men, and he similarly battled with Captain Peacock over his appearances on the floor during store hours. However, he was considerably less militant and was more friendly towards the sales staff. Reciprocally, the other staff were much more accepting of him than they had been of Mr. Mash, and he frequently acted as a member of the group and not just as an antagonist. Mr. Rumbold, Nicholas Smith, the manager of the floor, was often mocked for his bald head, jug ears, and lack of intelligence. Nicknamed Jug Ears, he frequently took slang phrases literally, leading to his formulating far-fetched explanations of incidents between staff members. He often took credit for his underlings' ideas, but subsequently tried to deny all involvement when the idea inevitably proved disastrous. The show's success transcended British borders. Its relatable humor and well-developed characters resonated with international audiences, making Are You Being Served a global phenomenon. It continues to be a cherished part of television history, fondly remembered for its laugh-out-loud moments and its endearing cast of characters.